Know me, I am Sarah Robb. I work for Premier Foods. I am 45 years old. I know I don't look it. I'm perimenopausal. I'm a single mum, and I've worked in food sale, wholesale, or manufacturing for 20 years. So you could say I've been around the block a bit when it comes to it. Before we start, we're going to ask you, we're going to do some polls as we go along. And the first one we've got is around, I just want to know you're confident or not about your knowledge of the menopause. So if you can just have a quick vote, that would be greatly appreciated. It's just to gauge where we're all at today and how we're feeling about the menopause. Have we got the votes coming in?
Yeah, loads of them. So we've got 74% saying no and 26 saying yes.
Ah, good, that's it. And the other thing is there anything particular that you want to get out of today? So you'll probably need to put this in the chat or in the questions. If there's anything particular you would want us to cover off or to me to talk about, then please pop it in the chat. That's a massive amount, 74%. So hopefully we can dispel some of the myths. Right. Okay, supporting your colleagues, get your employee more engaged. Okay, let's see what we can do this morning. What initiatives are there in businesses across the industry? It's fantastic. And how I can support other colleagues. Okay, so for those that don't know me, I am very open and quite blunt on on most things, I would say. So I probably come across, there isn't anything I won't answer this morning. So if there is things that you want to ask me, then please do ask. And if there's questions that you've got that you would prefer me to answer away from here, then pop them on the questions or drop me a DM and we can pick up afterwards about that. I didn't know I was perimenopausal until I was probably 3 years into it, I would say. And the reason that I am so passionate about this and about getting the message out and talking about it is that 51% of the population in the UK are women. So 51% of us are pretty much going to go through the menopause at some point during our lives. And depending on the degree of our symptoms, depends on how we cope with it. We know that some women sail through it, and that's fantastic. But there are also other women out there that don't. So I know I shared the stat before that you've got 1 in 10 women actually leave their workplace because of the symptoms. 1 in 4 women will really suffer debilitating symptoms, whether that be the normal ones that we hear about, that are the sweats or joint aches or brain fog or memory relapse. A recent study I saw, there is over 50 symptoms that can be associated with the menopause, and a lot of those you could in isolation put down to anything. And I think this is why a lot of the time that the menopause and the perimenopause are missed. For those that don't know, the menopause actually isn't, that is when it's pretty much all done, to be honest. The perimenopause is before the actual menopause. So you were classed as being menopausal once you've had 12 months of no periods. So before that, you were classed as perimenopausal. If you start going into that being 45, that is called an early menopause, but you're still experiencing the perimenopausal systems. And then post having those 12 months of no periods, that's when you are classed as being menopausal. So the perimenopause is actually, it's quite a new thing, and I think it's quite a new saying that's being talked about a lot. And I think this is just to dispel the myths and about the process of the menopause. The average woman in the UK is classed as menopausal at the age of 51. So she would have her last period at the age of 50. But actually what they're saying in a lot of the reports is that up to 10 years beforehand, many people are going through, or many women are going through, the perimenopause. So that's a massive gap, or a massive time period before you're classed as being menopausal, and you're probably not going to think about it or even know. I didn't. So my journey started, I think now looking back, I started getting my perimenopausal symptoms once I'd had my baby. So I'm an older mum. I didn't have my little girl until I was 40. And so I think actually I wouldn't have known about it. I never spoke about the menopause with my mum or anybody like that. It's not something that I really spoke to about my friends. But I think during the last 5 years, you know, you've had a baby, your hormones were all over the place anyway. I went through a split up with my partner. So again, you've got the stress of all of that. You've got work pressures. So actually there's so much going on, and so much that I just didn't notice. So I had the brain fog. I couldn't recall anything. I had an anxiety, you know, I had rage. And actually these could all be attributed to something else. My mum kept telling me that I was just doing too much. I'd got too much on my plate, and that's why my memory was bad. And that's why I'd not got any concentration. And it wasn't until the first Davina McCall program on Channel 4 that I watched that, and a light bulb came on in my head. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but if you haven't, she's recently done part 2, but I would definitely recommend going back and watching Channel 4 and the Davina McCall 2 parts. It's an amazing program. It's a light touch, but it does highlight the situation and the symptoms and the fact that we don't talk about it. And that's now one of my aims, is to sing from the rooftops about the menopause and the perimenopause, and let's not brush it under the carpet, but bring it to life, because it's something we talk about a lot in Women in Wholesale, about how we want gender equality, how we want more women in more positions, senior positions. One of the stats that we've got here is that 40% of people working in women are 40% of the working in wholesale, but only 17% of those are senior level managers and directors. Now, if you've got 1 in 10 women who are leaving the workplace because of their symptoms and how they are feeling, we're never going to get that gender equality. You know, how many of us sit here and you think, I've got brain fog, I've got lack of concentration, I can't retain anything, and think we can't do our job. And that's where I was at. So I would say for the last 12, 24 months, I was slowly getting worse. I couldn't retain anything. I pretty much bought shares in Post-it notes. Even if you see the office today, they're surrounded. And I'd sit here and I could watch the wall for hours, because I just wouldn't have the concentration to do anything. And then everything was last minute, and I was late on things. And I was really questioning my ability to do the job, a job that I have done for 8 years, and I've done very well for 8 years. But all of a sudden I was questioning my abilities, and questioning whether this was the job for me, and whether I could continue, whether I could make those decisions, or actually did I need to look at something else that wasn't going to tax my brain as much. I thought I'd got dementia, and that's not a joke. I seriously thought I'd got dementia. I took more photos probably in the last 4 years than I've taken in my whole life, because I was so worried about missing bits of my daughter growing up. Mustn't get upset, that I thought I was going to forget all of that. So I took all these pictures. And it wasn't until I watched the Davina program that I thought, hang on a minute, this isn't necessarily dementia. I think I've got a bit of the old perimenopause going on. So in society, we are classed as being perimenopausal automatically at 45. So I didn't go to my doctor until my 45th birthday, because I thought that was the day to go. Realistically, I could have gone beforehand, and I should have gone beforehand, but I was waiting for that magic day of being 45. and it then all of a sudden being okay to go to the doctor. And that's lack of knowledge. But what I do know now is that you should go as early as your symptoms are. The worrying thing about going to a doctor is that on average it takes a lady or a woman 6 to 9 appointments before she is heard by her doctor. I heard a horrible story yesterday. So I was talking to a lady locally about something completely different, and the phone went, and it was my doctor's, and I said, I'm really sorry, do you mind if I just pop you on mute? I think this is about my HRT. And she said, oh yeah, great. And then we were speaking, she goes, oh, you're on HRT? And I said, yeah, I am. She goes, but you're too young. I went, no, I'm not. And she told me that she had been suffering. She asked me about my symptoms, and she said, oh my God, I get brain fog and memory. And she goes, I've been to the doctor this week and I've been told to go away. And I was like, well, what do you mean you've been told to go away? And she said, he told me that I wasn't menopausal. There was not a chance I was menopausal. I just didn't have the ability to retain information. I am still raging for that woman. And I've told her to go back to the doctors. I've been told her to use our engage consult system so she can write it all down, but make sure that she speaks to a different doctor, that she has to speak to somebody else. We shouldn't have to go through that. It shouldn't be a fight to get support when it comes to the perimenopause and the menopause. She's walked away from that, and if she hadn't have had a conversation with me yesterday, she would have just continued to think she wasn't able to retain information. But he didn't give her a solution for retaining information. He just told her to go away. And I think I'm still raging. Anyway, back to my story. Something you will notice, I probably dart all over the place. So please bear with me. And if I lose my thread, I've got Karen and Nicola on who are going to WhatsApp me if I start going off at a tangent. So I watched Davina. Everything, the light bulb came on. I started to do my research. I will share these links with you afterwards, but I discovered Dr. Newsom and her Balance app, and I would highly recommend you downloading that. So Dr. Newsom is very well known within the menopause arena. She is very pro HRT, and I know that's not suitable for everybody, and I'll come on to that. But I started looking at the Balance app, and it talked about the menopause, and it talked about what you could do and what you could take and how you could change your life to support it. But it also has a tracker on there, and that's something that I think we should all be doing, is tracking how our bodies change. It's something that we do when we're younger because we're panicking. Have we got a period? When is our period coming? We're trying, if you're trying to get pregnant, when is your next period due? Have you missed a period because you want to get pregnant? So when we're younger, we are on it when it comes to our periods. The older we get, not so much. Maybe that's because we're on contraception and therefore we're not necessarily getting periods, or we're just not that fussed the older we get. But actually, by tracking your periods and by tracking your moods, you can then easily be able to see when things change. That was something I did. And that also then made it really easy when I went to have that conversation with my doctor, because I was able to say, I'm not sleeping, this is my brain fog. I've downloaded it all. My last period was November. They are really sporadic. I need your help. But I think we need to, as women, take control of our bodies and understand what we're doing. So we know that we might not be getting periods, but there are certain times of the month when you could quite happily eat your way through a Cadbury's factory, or that you get certain times of the month where there is so much rage that you would quite happily do 30 years for murder. So that is my first top tip today, is definitely download the Balance app. And start taking control of your body. So I did that, and I started looking around, and for me, so just so you know, I am very pro HRT. It has worked for me. Now I know that is not for everybody. I know quite a lot of women, and I'm friends with women who want to try and manage their symptoms and the menopause process and the perimenopause process naturally. So we know from the research that actually diet plays a massive importance in how you are feeling and how your body regulates. That's not just the perimenopause, that's just in life in general, but there is obviously with everything else when it comes to diet a big push towards a non-processed diet, and we know that. And also exercise is really key. There's also, I know a lot of women that look at reflexology and acupuncture and additional natural supplements to help them get through it. I'm all about the drugs, I'm not going to lie. I knew what I wanted, so I'd done my research. So with the menopause, what happens is you start to lose, so when you hit the perimenopause, you start to lose 3 hormones. So you start to lose estrogen, progesterone and testosterone. Testosterone we will come on to, because we currently only really talk about those first 2. And I think something we need to get away from saying or thinking about is that we're adding hormones into our bodies. We're not, we're losing hormones. So we have a hormone deficiency. So we're just putting back into our bodies the hormones that were already there. But because of the perimenopause process, we're losing those hormones. So I knew from the research that I'd read about that I wanted Estrogen Gel, which I have got here, and it's a little gel, and I put it on my thigh every day, and that helps. So with the estrogen, that really helps with my brain fog, my concentration, my rage, and my memory. I am beginning to see now that it is beginning to slow off again. So they talk about when you start taking these things that it could take up to 3 months to kick in. 48 hours I saw the difference. It was a game changer, an absolute game changer for me. We were talking about it, and I said I felt like I was on fire again at work. I only started this in February. I probably did in the next 4 weeks more work than I've done in the last 4 years. But let's not tell work that if we can, because I was just ready. Hopefully you'll get it when you say when I'm on fire, when that caffeine kicks in and you can take over the world. That's where I got back to. I then when you take estrogen, you need to take something. If you've got a womb, you need to take progesterone to help it not thicken the layer of the womb. What I would say on all of this is I am not medically trained, so you need to do your own research and speak to your doctor, but definitely do your own research first. So, because the problem that we have with a lot of medical and doctors, and this is no criticism, is that it's not really covered in training. So they don't really know. Or all that they've heard about is the survey from many years ago that said HRT gave women breast cancer. That's been disproven now. It wasn't a great case study. The people that took part in that weren't monitored or already through the menopause or had different symptoms that meant they should have been in that study. So that's been disproven now, but obviously that's not being picked up by the media. So definitely do your own research. So I do the gel, and then I also have had the coil fitted, because you can have tablets as well for the progesterone part of it, but I'm useless at taking that. And actually that's the bit that stops the womb lining thicken, which could potentially cause cancer. So it is important, if you've got a womb and you've got your ovaries, that you take that part as well. So I've had that put in. The other one to talk about, and there are different things that you can take tablets, you can take gel, there are patches, but that was what I felt worked for me. The other one is testosterone. Now, this isn't licensed in the UK, but we lose testosterone as women. So we do have it in our body. It's not just men that have testosterone. And that helps by losing your testosterone. that is also where you lose your brain fog, or you get your brain fog and your memory, but also with the joint pains as well, and also with your sex libido. So, you know, I'm not scared about talking about that. You know, that is a big part of our lives. And actually, you look at the amount of women that are saying they've gone off sex and their partners have left them because they didn't want that anymore. But actually, if you have your testosterone levels checked, and it could be that could all be sorted by having testosterone. So my next fight or battle is that I want to take testosterone, and that's more to clarify my memory and my brain fog, but also to help with my joint pain. And that's not licensed currently in the UK. So you can have it, and it is very much dependent on which health authority you're in. I know Leicestershire, where I am, do give it, but I do have to go through some hoops. So I'm fighting to go through those hoops at the moment. That's my story of where I'm up to, and a bit about the menopause. I realise I've probably darted all over the place. Do we have any questions? Well, I've seen one that we've got come in. How long can you take HRT for? So if you listen to Dr. Louise Newson on the, so she does an amazing podcast, and I've listened right back to the beginning of her. She is a great believer that you take HRT as long as the risks, as long as the benefits outweigh the risks. So they have people that have been on HRT for years, and they don't see a problem with that. What they are saying that though, and this is what isn't being reported, is about the additional benefits of taking HRT, that it helps with dementia, that it can, you know, it can stop you getting dementia, it helps with heart disease, it helps with the osteoporosis because of the bones. So there is additional benefits to HRT rather than just the perimenopause symptoms that we know and love. Is there any other questions that have come in on that front?
Sarah, a couple of people have asked if you can simply make adjustments to your diet.
So yeah, so I have read that women have managed that. I'm currently doing a third age women course, and a lot of that talks about diet and how you can change it. There is a massive push towards a plant-based diet. But I don't know a lot about that. For those that know me, I'm not great at the whole diet side. I class having a jammy dodger as having one of my 5 a day, so I'm possibly not the right person to look at that. But if you do, I will share some websites with you that do give that information as well. Jenny Burrell does a great course on it, and a great course on nutrition. But yes, some people can cope by just changing lifestyle, so changing their diet, so moving away from the processed foods, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit in their diets can really make a difference. One of the other things is making sure you keep exercising. So, and that's why it's important that we get the right support, because actually if your joints are hurting, you don't feel like exercising, it's just that vicious circle. And I'm not saying that we do HIIT, you know, you do HIIT, but find an exercise that you enjoy and try to do it, you know, a couple of times a week, and that can be at home or going to a class. I'm a massive believer in getting people to move more. So I run 4 fitness classes a week, and the women that come to those classes are, I would say, of it's a wide span, but I would say 30 plus that come, and it's just getting them to move more and to do different things. And we're not necessarily going to do an hour of star jumps, but we are moving more and keeping subtle and doing stuff, but we also have the high impact in there as well. One thing to note as well that's not spoken about is, and that just reminded me when I was talking about star jumps, is that we all get to an age where maybe our pelvic floor isn't as strong as it once was. So having children, you know, we know that goes to pot, and you suddenly start buying shares in 10 Lady. But actually, estrogen if a lack of estrogen also plays a part in weakening your pelvic floor. So you don't necessarily have had to have a child for that to be completely screwed up. So yet again, you know, by not having these hormones in our bodies, it affects how we work. And I don't know about you, but I don't like sneezing and peeing. It's not what I want to be doing. I imagined I'd be 90, not 45 and doing that. You know, I go and do my Zumba classes and I'm just like praying on tenor. And I'm hoping that by doing more pelvic floor exercises and taking the estrogen, that is going to help strengthen my pelvic floor as well. Do we have any other questions around that?
Sarah, Claire Smith has suggested taking something called lion's mane for brain fog. Have you tried, or would you recommend that?
No, I've not tried it, but there was that's a great recommendation. And I know I do take supplements, so I take vitamin D and I take a menopause. So you can go into many health shops and there are like tablet supplements. What I would say is check what you're getting in those menopause tablets versus standard ones, because you'll often find that they're exactly the same. You just pay more for the fact that they've put menopause on the front of it. So check what you're taking. B12, I've heard of people taking B12 to help with the energy levels as well. That's something else that testosterone can help with, is improve your energy levels and your fatigue. That's another reason why I want to take it, is because I'm completely knackered all of the time and I'm still getting 8 or 9 hours sleep a night. So I don't believe it's because I'm not getting enough sleep. I just think I'm hormone deficient in that area. Julie's put sage is good for hot flushes. That's good to know. I've been really lucky, and I do consider myself really lucky, that I have not experienced that side of it, the hot sweats and the difficulty sleeping. As my doctor called it when we spoke, he called my symptoms the soft symptoms. I don't think he will be again. We had a bit of a chat about that, because actually it doesn't matter what the symptoms are. They're all having an effect on our lives, whether they are a physical symptom or a mental symptom. They are going to affect how we do and how we live and what we do. How has work, good question, Lisa. How has work supported me? So I'm going to ask that question again in a minute, actually, and we're going to do another poll. So I hadn't really spoke about it at work, because, to be fair, for a long time I didn't know. I have a really supportive boss and I am very lucky. And he's a bloke, so poor Liam probably knows now more about menopause than any man at Premier Foods. But he has been really supportive of me, and has just said, just let me know what you need me to do to support you. So a good example of that was, I was feeling quite ragey yesterday and we had a meeting about ways of working, and I just didn't think that yesterday was the meeting to have that. So I sent him a picture of the purple minion and just said, I'm feeling like this today. Can we move our meeting? And he said, yes, absolutely. And it's just little things like that, I think, that help that understanding. And he has been amazing to me. So we have actually got a question about workplace, and we'll come on to that. Premier Foods has a menopause policy that they're launching. It is great, and it is all about talking about the way things we can support. It'd be interesting to know how many of your workplaces have a menopause policy. If we can pop that one up.
Yep. One moment. Stop sharing.
We'll give you a couple of minutes to answer those. How's it coming along?
So it's still going. Most people are saying no, 61%, yes, 14%, not sure, 24%. Let me share the results. Oh, no, it's still going. People are having a think about it, I think. Okay, I will. Oh, no, it's still going. Right,
Everybody's gone off to search their intranet to try and find them. Have we got one?
Share the results.
Wow. Okie dokie. So probably one just for the notes, because we've not done this in the poll. The question I was going to ask is, and I will ask that now, and it's for the notes, or put it into the questions, however you want to do it, if you want to anonymize it, is how would you like your workplace to support you during the perimenopause and the menopause process? For me, and I think that's something that we're doing at Premier Foods, is that we are bolstering the knowledge for our managers as well, so that they understand it and making it a safe place. So we often talk about at Premier Foods how it's a safe place to talk and to be who you are and to be what you want to be, your authentic self. And I think allowing our managers to understand what the menopause is and the perimenopause, and it isn't just hot flushes, it is all of these other symptoms that can affect you, then hopefully allows that conversation to be had. And I think for me, it's about, I'm very open, but how do we enable other women in Premier Foods and outside of Premier Foods to be confident, or to have somebody to go and have those conversations with? Because it might be that you don't want to have a conversation with your boss about your hot sweats or how you're feeling, or, there's some horrific symptoms, and I'm going to mention it, vaginal dryness, but to the extent that you can't sit down and you can't wear underwear, and there are women struggling with that. So as a workplace, would you be comfortable having that conversation with your boss? I think even that's a step too far for me with Liam, but it's how do we support those severe symptoms and help women recognize that they're coming into the perimenopause as well. So we've got educate managers and communicate more. Yep. Has anybody got any other things that they would like to see their workplaces do? A fan on a desk. Yes, I know that's something that has happened at Premier Foods, that they do ask a fan. I did think that was quite funny, because I was just like, highlight the woman with menopause. But then I suppose there's also that, why shouldn't we? Because actually I am proud I have managed to get to this point and I am perimenopausal, and it's just a third stage in my life that I'm going through, and makes me who I am. I love that. We're starting to have a conversation, have created a timeout room with a comfy chair. I love that. All right, has anybody got any recommendations on managing and reducing anxiety? Any top tips that we've got there? I find tea and biscuits help, Karen, but I don't think that's for everybody. Oh, that's good. I'd be really interested, Caroline, to understand how your menopause cafes work, because that's something I would like to suggest to Premier Foods, and something I'm going to chat to you ladies and gentlemen about today as well. Because I think the more we talk about it, the more open we are. Wow. Allow flexible start times. I only get 4 hours sleep per night and really struggled in the mornings. Wow. I hope work is supporting you there, Michelle. But I know that's something in our menopause policy as well, is looking at that flexible time and your flexible working. So if you're only getting 4 hours sleep a night, actually you're not going to be productive in work anyway. So if they can make those adjustments, that you can catch up on your sleep and therefore be more productive later in the day, then why shouldn't that be allowed? Because actually that's a benefit to you, and it's also a benefit to the workplace as well. So for me, I think it is about this bringing it up at work and making it more open and having those conversations. If you've not got a menopause policy at work and you're confident enough to raise that, then raise it at work and raise the fact that you should be talking about it more, and that there should be more education. From, I think, my top 3 tips would be that we as women need to understand our bodies more, so we understand what's going on, so we go back to tracking our periods, or we go back to tracking our moods. There is the Balance app. There are different apps out there that can support you with that. That also then helps you with any conversation that you want to have with a medical professional, because you've got that information there, that you've gone prepared. Do your research before you go. Do not be surprised if your medical professional doesn't know or knows less than you do. So have that information, but don't be put off. You know your body. We all know our bodies. I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know what it was until we'd had that chat about the menopause and I'd seen Davina's program. So don't be that person who it takes 6 to 9 appointments to get help. Put your foot down. Be those stubborn, strong women that we are, and that we are every day in a workplace, to get help and to get support. Do not suffer in silence. We are 51% of the UK, and therefore we need to be listened to, because otherwise the workplace will suffer, because we will end up leaving in some cases. You know, there is a stat that it says one of the reasons for gender equality, there's obviously many reasons, but one of the reasons, and my favorite reason, is it makes a happier workplace, which results in a lower turnover of staff. Now, considering the staffing problems that we've got in the UK at the minute, if you had a happier workplace and we had more women in it and you had less turnover, that then helps with everybody's workloads and the stress that we're seeing at the moment within there as well. So yeah, definitely do your research is my next top tip. Find out what's right for you, whether that be the HRT, whether it be changing your diet, doing your exercise, doing alternative therapies. Do what is right for you.
Sarah, we've got another actually quite good question from another Sarah.
I like it. How do I get advice on what I need to ask for? Okay, how can we get advice? I'm going to actually, Lisa, you're on the call. What is the best way to answer that, would you suggest? Because you've been really heavily involved in the Premier policy, so I think you're probably a really good person to respond to that question.
Just read the question out in full for me, please, Sarah.
It is, hang on, bear with me. How can we get advice on what a menopause policy might look like? Not sure exactly what I need to ask for.
That's a brilliant question. Yeah, our approach was that we reached out to Diversity in Grocery, DIG, and made contact with organisations who had already written the menopause policy. And we got a variety. We got some from retailers, some from food manufacturers. And then with that, I mean, I'm not going to lie, we stole with pride, basically, and made sure that, whatever the likes of Tesco were offering, for example, is a much bigger offering than potentially we could offer at Premier Foods. So we kind of stole with pride and took the best bits from people's policies, and then wrote something that was really for us. But back to what Sarah said earlier, is we didn't want it to be thou shalt do this and thou shalt take so many days off and this is important. It was more about get the relationship, build the trust, and have those open and honest discussions. And a lot of the training that we're doing is guiding managers just to show empathy and listen well, and it sounds like Lingham is a great example of that.
Is a brilliant example of that. And I was going to say, I'm not looking for a pay rise, I'm being honest and saying he's really supportive with that. So we've had, I was going to say, we've had offers to share as well the internal policies as well, so that'd be lovely. Thank you guys for doing that. And I think, is that something that you can facilitate?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, maybe if anybody's got anything they're willing to share, they can send it to you, and then we can share it with everybody that's on the call. I think that would be great.
Yeah, we can do that. Also, if anyone wants to keep in touch, if possibly we could start a like a WhatsApp group of people that are on this session, if you want to carry on the discussion.
So what I was going to suggest is, one of the things that I want to do is, and that's why I was so keen to have a chat about the Menopause Cafe, is that we're obviously all over the world, not all over the world, but all over the country. And now we are so familiar with Zoom. I'd like to suggest setting up our own Menopause Cafe to support each other. If that is something that you are interested in, probably just once a month, we get on a Zoom call for half an hour and we have a coffee and support each other. Then we'll pop it on the email out and let me know, or connect with me on LinkedIn and we can start that. It's something that me, Nicola and Karen did, not on the menopause, just a networking coffee morning during lockdown about keeping people in touch, and that worked really well. And we're still in contact today. So I think it is about having support for each other. And there's been some great messages coming through about what other people are doing, what they're reading, what they're taking. And if we can continue that to support each other, I think would be amazing. So I think if we could do that would be great. Somebody posted, I'm trying to scroll through as well, about healthcare. And I am with you on that one. I know I spoke to my private healthcare about getting a private medical menopause appointment this was going down the testosterone route, but a lot of, and I would say the majority of private healthcare doesn't include menopause. So that is something that maybe something that companies can look at in the future, or should be looking at the future, is actually, can they include the menopause in their private medical? Because this is life debilitating for some people, and it can change the way you work. Because if you've got brain fog and a lack of concentration, or you're not sleeping and you think you can't do your job, you're either going to leave, but also then it stops you from going for other jobs if you think you can't do them. And that's really sad, that people aren't looking at progressing in their careers or moving roles to something different, or they're changing roles to something with maybe less responsibility or a different field, because they feel they can't cope because of the symptoms. And I think that's a great shame. And I think any support that we can get medically, or whatever that is amazing, and can only be of benefit to us and to companies and to the workforce. I'm just trying to read through the questions. But yeah, have we got any other comments or questions that people would like to ask each other? I'm trying to catch up with it here. I will definitely share with you the books that I've read and the website and the podcasts that I have listened to, because I think they are really useful. And it also makes you feel that you're not on your own. And I think that's something that we need to remember, is that we're not on our own through this. Do talk about it. Don't make it a taboo subject, because it shouldn't be a taboo subject. It's going to happen to at least 51% of us, in one form or another. And it should be something that we quite openly talk about, and talk about to our children as well, so they're not coming into this in as much as a fog and a haze that we are, because I think it's not something we've particularly spoke about. And I think the easier we can make it on future generations, the better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. Are there any final questions for Sarah? No, I will pick up with you about the Menopause Cafe and how best to execute that. I'm sure you're going to get a huge amount of interest. That's brilliant. And this session has been recorded, and we'll circulate the recording shortly. So that's all for now. Thank you so much, Sarah, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.